After I paid off my condo, my sister-in-law declared it a family asset, and tried to move in. Seconds after I whispered one sentence, she screamed like her world had just collapsed. I couldn't recall a time in my life when I had laughed this hard. But this wasn't the kind of laugh that follows a clever joke or a witty remark. No, this was the uncontrollable kind. The one that bubbles up when you hear something so outrageously absurd that your brain refuses to accept it. My sister-in-law Victoria stood before me, arms crossed, exuding confidence. She was serious. Dead serious. "We've already decided," she declared. "This house is too big for one person. Blake and I need it more than you." I waited for the punchline. It never came. She truly believed she could take my home. Let me give you some context. I grew up in Detroit in a working-class family where nothing was handed to us. My parents worked hard, but money was always tight. If I wanted something, I had to earn it. So that's exactly what I did. I worked all through high school, through college, and through my 20s, saving every cent I could. I watched friends go on vacations to Miami, buy nice Honda Accords, eat at Olive Garden whenever they wanted. Meanwhile, I was living on top ramen and side hustles, all for one goal, to own my own home. And after years of working my ass off, I finally did it. I bought a modest 2-bedroom condo in a decent neighborhood in Phoenix. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine. Every month, I poured money into my mortgage instead of wasting it on things I didn't need. And after years of sacrifice, I made the final payment. I owned it outright. No mortgage, no debt, just me, my home, and my peace of mind. Then Victoria decided she had a right to it. Victoria married my younger brother Blake 5 years ago, and from the moment she joined the family, she acted like she was above the rest of us. She came from money, not rich, but comfortable, and she never let anyone forget it. She had opinions about everything. The way we dressed, the places we ate at Red Robin instead of fancy steakhouses, the cheap gifts we gave for Christmas. But the thing she looked down on the most? My condo. "It's so small," she had said the first time she visited, wrinkling her nose. "I could never live somewhere like this." Well, fast forward a few years, and suddenly she wanted it. The day she showed up at my door, I should have known something was off. She never visited me alone. She usually avoided spending time with me unless she had to. But that day, she waltzed in like she owned the place, looking around like she was inspecting something. Then she turned to me and said, "So we've made a decision." I didn't know what she was talking about, but something about the way she said it put me on edge. She crossed her arms and gave me this condescending smile, like she was explaining something to a child. "This condo," she said slowly, "is a family asset now." I just stared. "A what?" "A family asset," she repeated, as if saying it twice would make it make sense. "You've had it for years, and now that it's paid off, it belongs to the family." I blinked. "No, it belongs to me. I bought it. I paid for it." She waved a hand like that was a minor detail. "Sure, but you don't need all this space. It makes more sense for us to live here. Blake and I have a child. You don't." I laughed out loud. It wasn't even intentional. It just came out. She frowned. "What's so funny?" "You," I said, still chuckling. "You actually think you can just, what? Claim my home?" "It's not about claiming anything," she said, rolling her eyes. "It's about what's fair. We have a family. We need the space. You can find somewhere else to live." I stared at her, trying to understand if this was some kind of prank, but her expression was serious. "You're insane," I said finally. She huffed. "Blake and I talked to Mom and Dad, and they agree this is what's best for the family." And there it was. My parents always favored Blake. He was the golden child, the one who could do no wrong. Meanwhile, I was always expected to be the responsible one, the understanding one. When we were kids, if Blake broke something, it was my fault for not watching him. If he failed a test, it was because I didn't help him study. And if I ever dared to complain, I was being selfish. So it didn't even surprise me that my parents were backing this insanity. But that didn't mean I was going to roll over and take it. I stepped closer to Victoria, dropped my voice to a whisper, and said something that made her face drain of all color. She recoiled like I had slapped her. Then a second later, she started screaming. "No way. This isn't fair." I just laughed. Fairness wasn't your concern before, was it? What did I whisper? Oh, trust me. Victoria was about to learn exactly how unfair life could be. Victoria stood there, face red, fists clenched, breathing like a bull ready to charge. She thought she had me cornered. She thought I'd roll over like I always had, like my parents had trained me to. But she had no idea who she was messing with. I had spent years breaking my back for this home. No way in hell was I going to let her take it from me. You don't get to do this, she hissed. I smiled. I already did. She screamed full on, top of her lungs, toddler tantrum style screamed. I didn't even flinch. By the next morning, my phone was blowing up. First, it was my mom. How could you be so selfish? She snapped the second I answered. Your brother needs that space more than you. He has a child. You're alone. I rubbed my temple, already feeling a headache coming on. Mom, it's my condo. I bought it. I paid for it. Blake has no right to it. It's a family home, she insisted. Family takes care of each other. Funny how that only applies when it's about me giving something up, I muttered. What was that? Nothing. She sighed like I was being difficult. You don't even need that much space. You could find a nice little apartment somewhere. I clenched my jaw. I already have a home. This one. She gasped like I had just told her I was kicking puppies for fun. Then my dad called. Same speech. Same guilt trip. Then my aunt, then my uncle, even some cousins I hadn't spoken to in years suddenly had opinions on what I should do with my home. And every single one of them was on their side. That night, just as I was finally settling down, there was a knock at my door. I knew who it was before I even opened it. Blake. He stood there, hands in his pockets, looking uncomfortable. He wasn't like Victoria. He didn't get loud or aggressive. He just expected things to go his way. Can we talk? He asked. I crossed my arms. Talk. He sighed. Look, I know Victoria can be a little strong-willed. I raised an eyebrow. That's one way to put it. But this isn't just about her. It's about our family. Mom and Dad think this is what's best. I think it's what's best. For who? For all of us, he said like it was obvious. You're just one person. We're a family. We need the space. I laughed. You live in a 3-bedroom house, Blake. The rent is expensive, he said. Not my problem. He shifted uncomfortably. You don't even use the 2nd bedroom. I leaned against the door frame, staring at him. Do you hear yourself? He didn't respond. Then I said something that made his face go pale. I looked up your lease. He swallowed hard. What? I know you can't break it early without paying 3 months rent up front. He went silent. That's when I realized something. This wasn't just about Victoria wanting my condo. They couldn't afford their place anymore. A week later, I got a call from a friend who worked at a local real estate office in Scottsdale. You're not going to believe this, she said. But Blake and Victoria applied for a mortgage last year. I blinked. Okay. They got denied. Now that got my attention. Why? I asked. She hesitated. Bad credit. High debt. I sat up. How high? She lowered her voice. Really high. Everything clicked into place. Victoria didn't just want my condo. She needed it. They were drowning in debt, stuck in a lease they couldn't afford to break. And instead of admitting they had screwed up, they decided to come for my home. And my parents, they had no idea. I didn't confront them right away. Instead, I waited. A few days later, I got another call from my mom. We're having a family dinner this weekend, she said sweetly. You should come. I almost left. They wanted me there so they could gang up on me, make me feel guilty, wear me down until I gave in. But I had other plans. Oh, I'll be there, I said. And when I walked into that dinner, I was ready. I walked into that family dinner like a soldier going into battle. I already knew how this was going to go. They'd sit me down, talk to me like I was a selfish child, and then pressure me until I gave in. But they had no idea that I wasn't the same person they were used to steamrolling. I knew the truth now. Blake and Victoria weren't just being greedy. They were desperate. They were drowning in debt, trapped in a lease they couldn't afford. And instead of fixing their mess, they had decided to steal my home and call it fair. Not happening. The moment I walked into my parents' house in Tempe, I felt the tension. My mom greeted me with fake warmth. My dad barely looked at me. Blake and Victoria were already sitting at the dining table, whispering to each other. Victoria glanced up, smirking like she had already won. The table was set with Mom's good china, pot roast and mashed potatoes already served, but no one was eating. They had been waiting for me. I sat down, acting like I had no idea what was coming. And then, right on cue, my mom launched into it. "Honey," she began, reaching for my hand. "We just want to talk." I didn't pull away, but I didn't respond either. "We've been thinking about this a lot," she continued, squeezing my fingers like she was comforting me through some tough decision. "And we all agree. It's time to do what's best for the family." I stayed silent. "We love you," she said, putting on her best concerned mother face. "But it's selfish to keep that condo all to yourself when Blake and Victoria need it more." Victoria nodded along like this was some reasonable request. I finally spoke. "So, let me get this straight. You want me to just hand over my home?" My dad cleared his throat. "Not hand over. Just let them stay there. For free." "Well, yes." I let out a sharp laugh. "And where exactly am I supposed to live?" My mom waved a hand like it didn't matter. "You could get a nice little apartment. You don't need all that space." There it was again. That word, need. As if I hadn't earned every inch of that home. As if it wasn't mine. I leaned back, folding my arms. "And why can't they just get a place they can afford?" The room went silent. I saw it then, the flicker of panic on Blake's face. The way Victoria's mouth tightened. They didn't expect me to push back. And that's when I decided to go for the kill. I turned to Blake, staring him down. "You already tried to buy a house last year, didn't you?" His face drained of color. "What?" "You applied for a mortgage. Got denied. Because of your credit." Victoria stiffened. "That's none of your business." I ignored her. "You're thousands of dollars in debt. Aren't you?" My mom gasped. "That's not true." I shrugged. "It's true. And that's why you suddenly want my condo. Because you can't afford your place anymore." Blake looked like he wanted to sink into the floor. Victoria, on the other hand, snapped. She slammed her hand on the table. "You have no right to dig into our finances." I raised an eyebrow. "And you have no right to take my home." She opened her mouth, then shut it, face twisted with rage. My mom turned to Blake, eyes wide. "Is this true?" Blake swallowed hard but didn't answer. And just like that, the entire dynamic shifted. I saw it on my mom's face, the first crack in her blind loyalty to Blake. See, she could justify pushing me aside when it was just about fairness. But debt? Bad financial decisions? That was different. "You lied to us?" she asked, voice shaking. Blake sighed, rubbing his temples. "It's not like that." "Oh really?" I said. "Because it seems exactly like that." I turned to my dad. "So let me ask you this. If I hadn't found out the truth, would you have still taken their side?" He didn't answer. I let out a bitter laugh. Unbelievable. Then I stood up. "I hope this was worth it," I said, looking directly at Victoria. "Because you just lost any chance of ever getting anything from me." She glared at me, jaw clenched. "You'll regret this." I smirked. "Try me." Then I walked out. I thought that would be the end of it. I thought they'd be too embarrassed to try anything else. I was wrong. Because 2 weeks later, I came home to find someone had tried to break into my condo. The lock was damaged. The door had scratches. And I knew exactly who was behind it. But I wasn't just going to change my locks and move on. Oh no. If they wanted to play dirty, I'd show them just how nasty I could get. I stood in front of my door, staring at the scratched-up lock. Someone had tried to break into my home. I knew exactly who it was. I could have called the cops right then and there. I could have changed the locks, installed cameras, and moved on. But after everything Victoria and Blake had tried to pull, that wasn't enough. They had declared war. So I decided to end it. Instead of rushing to fix the lock, I played it smart. First, I called a locksmith and told them to install a hidden camera in the peephole. It looked like a regular door viewer, but inside it was recording everything. Next, I upgraded my security system. New locks, motion sensors, and a camera pointed straight at the hallway. Then I waited. Because I knew one thing for sure, Victoria wasn't done. And I was right. 3 nights later, at exactly 2:37 a.m., my phone buzzed. Motion detected. I opened the app and saw a live feed of Victoria standing at my door. She was holding a screwdriver, trying to pry open my lock. I recorded everything. Then I called the police. It took them 7 minutes to get there, and when they did, Victoria was still hunched over my doorknob, completely unaware she was about to have the worst night of her life. When the cops yelled, "Hands where we can see them," she screamed. I opened my door just in time to see her face down on the floor getting cuffed. It was beautiful. Victoria was arrested for attempted burglary. She tried to spin some ridiculous story about forgetting her keys, but the police weren't buying it. Not when the footage clearly showed her breaking in. And Blake? Oh, he was screwed. Turns out Victoria was on probation. Some small fraud incident from years ago that she had managed to keep quiet. But now this arrest violated her probation, and she was facing serious charges. My parents begged me to drop the charges. I laughed in their faces. After everything she pulled? I said, not a chance. They tried to guilt-trip me, cry about family, tell me I was ruining Victoria's life. But I had heard enough of their nonsense. I turned to Blake and asked, "Did you know she was going to break into my place?" He couldn't even look me in the eye. That told me everything I needed to know. Victoria ended up serving 3 months in jail. When she got out, she had a criminal record, making it even harder for them to get a mortgage. Their debt got worse. Their landlord in Chandler raised their rent. And within 6 months, they were evicted. And me? I sent them a housewarming gift, a framed photo of my condo with a note that said, "Hope you enjoy your new place." Oh wait, you don't have one. I blocked them after that. Never spoke to them again. And my parents? They tried to mend things after a while, but they had made their choice, so I made mine. I was done being the family's doormat, and I never looked back. The aftermath was everything I could have hoped for. Victoria's arrest made local news in Phoenix, woman arrested for attempted burglary of family member's home. The shame of it all was too much for them to handle in their social circle. Blake lost his job at the accounting firm when his background check renewal came up and they discovered his wife's criminal record. Apparently, having a felon in the family didn't look good for someone handling other people's finances. They had to move in with Victoria's parents in Tucson, the same parents whose money Victoria had always bragged about. Turns out they weren't so generous when their daughter came home as a convicted criminal with a mountain of debt. My parents tried calling me for months. They'd leave voicemails talking about forgiveness, about how family should stick together, about how I was being too harsh. I deleted every single one without listening to the end. Then came Blake's birthday. For 30 years, I'd never missed it. This year, I sent him a card. Inside I wrote, "Hope you've learned that some things can't be taken. They have to be earned. Happy birthday." I heard through mutual friends that he cried when he read it. Victoria tried reaching out through social media, creating fake accounts to message me. Always the same desperate tone. They were sorry, they'd made a mistake, couldn't I find it in my heart to help family? I screenshot every message and sent them to her probation officer. Turns out harassment was another violation of her terms. The final blow came a year later. I was at Target in Phoenix when I spotted them in the electronics section. Victoria looked tired, worn down. Blake had gained weight and lost most of his hair. They were arguing quietly about whether they could afford a basic tablet for their kid. I walked right up to them with my shopping cart full of home improvement supplies, new curtains for my condo, some plants for my balcony, expensive organic groceries. "Oh my God, Lucia," Victoria said, her fake smile plastered on. "How are you?" I looked her up and down slowly. "I'm fantastic. Just bought some new furniture for my second bedroom. You know, the one you said I didn't need." Blake shifted uncomfortably. Look, Lucia, we've been meaning to save it. I cut him off. I hope it was worth it. The lying, the scheming, the breaking and entering. I hope it was worth losing everything. Victoria's composure cracked. We lost everything because of you. I laughed, that same uncontrollable laugh from the day she first tried to claim my home. No, you lost everything because you thought you could steal from me and call it family. I leaned in closer, lowering my voice. And just so we're clear, if you ever, and I mean ever, come near me or my property again, I won't hesitate to call the police. You're one violation away from going back to jail, Victoria. Don't test me. She went pale. Blake grabbed her arm, pulling her away. Come on, we're leaving. As they hurried off, I heard Victoria hiss at Blake, this is all your fault. I told you we should have just asked her for money instead. Even in defeat, she still didn't understand. It was never about the money or the space or what was fair. It was about respect. It was about understanding that some things aren't yours to take, no matter how much you want them or think you deserve them. I finished my shopping, went home to my paid-off condo, and made myself a celebratory dinner. Steak, wine, and the satisfaction of knowing I'd stood up for myself when it mattered most. If there's one thing I learned from this whole mess, it's this: some people think family means they can walk all over you. The only way to stop them is to make sure they regret it. And trust me, Victoria and Blake will never forget the day they tried to steal from Lucia Martinez. Never again would anyone in my family, or anywhere else, mistake my kindness for weakness. My condo is still mine. My life is still mine. And my self-respect? That's something they could never take away, no matter how hard they tried.
What would you do in this situation? Let us know in the comments. If this story had you on the edge of your seat, smash that like button and subscribe for more jaw-dropping family drama, shocking betrayals, and the revenge stories you won't believe.